just bought a quarter of a cow, so let's see if it was worth the money. All right, let's open this thing up and see what we got.
All right, chuck roast, ribeye steak. Put that over there. Another chuck roast, arm roast, sirloin tip roast, bottom round roast, another chuck roast.
I love chuck roast. Those are my favorites.
Bottom round roast, more T-bone steaks, another bottom round roast, rump roast, arm roast, ribeye steaks, ooh, beef liver.
No, thank you. I'll have to figure out how to cook that. I've never cooked that or eaten that.
Stew meat.
Ooh, I love stew meat.
More ribeye steaks, T-bone steaks, sirloin steaks, more stew meat, brisket, that'll be fun.
That'll be really fun.
More sirloin steaks and T-bone steak.
All right.
And then we've got a bunch of ground beef tubes. These are in 1 pound tubes, I think.
We have 71 ground beef tubes, and this is not including the tallow that we got too. So that's pretty good for a quarter of a cow.
That's great.
So in total, we got 3 chuck roasts, 6 T-bone steaks, 6 ribeye steaks, 1 rump roast, 3 bottom round roast, 1 sirloin tip roast, 2 arm roast, 3 packages of stew meat, 6 sirloin steaks, 1 package of beef liver, 1 brisket, beef tallow, and 71 pounds of ground beef.
So our total cost for this quarter of a cow was $1,037. We got 150 pounds of meat, which comes to about $7 per pound.
Now, obviously, when you're shopping at the grocery store, ground beef is not always $7 a pound unless you're buying some type of bougie ground beef, all organic, grass-fed, you know, all the things on the labels that make us think that it's better for us. But steaks and roasts and briskets can be well over $7 a pound. So when you think about all that you're getting for $7 a pound, I think it really does even out.
I think it all really averages out to about the same amount of money that you pay at the grocery store, but that's not really why we do it. You don't really buy a quarter of a cow to save money. But here are the reasons why we totally believe it is worth buying your beef in bulk from a local farmer.
So this beef came from my friend Sarah Davison's dad's farm. He has raised cattle for his whole life, and his dad raised cattle, and his dad before that raised cattle, and so it's been a family business for all these years. And I've had the opportunity to go up to Iowa, where their farm is based out of, and see the cows myself and get to know more about how much Scott really values the genetics of his cattle and just raising the best beef that he possibly can. The cattle that Scott raises out on his farm are a Black Angus and a Hereford mix, which creates this cute little cow with a black body and a white head, and Sarah has always called them little black baldies, which I guess is what they're called. We don't know that much about cattle, but we have learned more from being so close with the Davisons.
Just thought I'd take a picture of the next group of cattle that I'm going to be taking into the feedlot. These have been on I've got an old self-feeder here that I've been grinding corn and supplement with. But these cattle have been running on this grass pasture all summer. A little bit of hay, and grinding corn from home in the feeder. And within the next month, I'll probably take them into the feedlot.
Another great thing about buying beef from a farmer that you trust is you know exactly what that cow has eaten from the time it was born to the time that it goes to the slaughterhouse. For Scott's cows, they are all pasture raised and supplemented with corn. So we don't have to worry about this beef being filled with chemicals or anything yucky like that. Before I met Sarah and learned so much about cattle farming, I didn't know anything about the beef that we buy at the grocery store versus beef that you buy from a local farmer. And Sarah told me that there are no country of origin labels on our beef here in America. Well, that didn't really mean much to me when she first said it, but when she explained it, she said if you go look at a bottle of orange juice, it'll tell you, where that product originated from. But if you look at ground beef or any beef from the grocery store, it doesn't tell you what country that beef originated from, which tells us that it's not American beef. Most of the beef that we are buying at the grocery store is brought in from South America and other countries, which tells us that all the beef that we're buying from the grocery store is brought in from other countries, and most of our beef is shipped out to other countries. And that made me feel kind of funny about the beef that I buy at the grocery store, because I want to know where it comes from and what the regulations are for the animals that I'm purchasing and eating.
Okay, so enough of a cattle lesson. Let's get down to the details and see if purchasing a cow in bulk is actually worth it. So I would say that the cons are, number one, you have to buy all of it up front. So a quarter of a cow did cost us a little over $1,000. So instead of just buying a little bit of meat as you need it from the grocery store, you do have to make that upfront investment. And you also need a lot of freezer space. So we've got a little chest freezer, which those are about $200 to $300. But once you make that one-time investment, that should last us a long time. But that would definitely be the biggest con for me, would be making that big investment all up front. The other con would be it doesn't necessarily save you any money. We did end up paying about $7 per pound, and that is not that great of a price for the ground beef, which was about half of our 150 pounds. But at the same time, we did end up getting some steaks and roast and stuff like that for only $7 a pound. So it kind of evened out, like we said. But
and a brisket. You're gonna have fun with that.
I am excited to try a brisket. But you definitely are not getting like a huge discount on the price of the meat.
A lot of times when you buy in bulk, you think that you're gonna get a discount for buying in bulk, but I agree with you. That's not really how it works with purchasing beef in bulk, or probably chicken or pork for that matter. But the total pro here is that you know exactly what you're eating. So for me, a huge pro with buying beef in bulk is knowing that I have it in my freezer whenever I need it. This is a one-time purchase, and we are going to eat on this for probably over a year.
Yeah, at least. We've still got a little bit. We did this last year and the year before that, and we still have a little bit of last year's beef left that we'll have to go through before we start on this beef. It definitely lasts you a long time, and like Emily said, we do live pretty far from the grocery store, so it is nice to be able just to walk out in the garage and grab pretty much any cut of beef that you need.
And the biggest pro that I think trumps all of it is the fact that you know exactly where your beef came from. There's no chemicals or yuckiness in your beef, and you're able to support an American farmer, which I think is really important. I would much rather my money go to Scott or any of the local farmers around us here in Tennessee than go to the grocery store paying for beef that I don't know where it came from.
Yeah, we have no clue what has been fed to those cows and what kind of chemicals and stuff like that. And I might be a little biased. This is definitely a pro. I think that this beef tastes a lot better than stuff we get at the grocery store. Like, we can probably never go back, I don't think.
Yeah, there is no comparison. Once you have had beef like this, you can never go back to the grocery store stuff. So it may be obvious, since this is our third year buying a quarter of a cow, I think we're hooked on it, and we will continue to do this forever.
Unless we start raising our own cattle.
Okay, slow down, mister. We've learned a lot, but we haven't learned that much. Now, one last thing that I think is important to note is Chris and I have bought a quarter of a cow, and it lasts us over a year. It's just the two of us. We don't have any kids, so our family is very small. But if you have a large family, I would absolutely recommend buying a half of a cow, or maybe even more than that. But you get a ton of beef, and I think for a family of 4 or 5, a half of a cow would be plenty for a whole year. So that is our experience with buying beef in bulk, and we definitely think the pros far outweigh the cons, but let us know what you think in the comments.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys on the next one.
Bye, y'all.